Hey guys, a quick disclaimer before we jump in. This episode was recorded in a studio pre-lockdown with no restrictions in place at this point, as it was back in February half term. Alright, sorry to keep you waiting. Enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to Island Artcast, uncovering the creative industry with me, Olivia Savage, as your host. Here we talk about all things art, and each week I'll be joined by inspiring arts creatives to discuss creative careers as well as burning topics in the art world today to keep that creative mind of yours in action. Today's show is one for all the parents out there. We are reaching the end of March now, which means the Easter holidays are on the horizon, and this seemed like the perfect time to talk about creativity for kids and specifically the importance of creativity in education. Today I'm joined by three creative teachers. We have Jenna Withey, who is the head of performing arts at QE2, Vici Blackburn, head of art at QE2, who's also my mum, so if I make any sarcastic comments, don't think I'm just being horrible. And Danielle Bridson, who is the founder and director of Arts Hub, which is an educational centre for the creative arts. That's correct. So as it has actually been discussed on this podcast before, back on episode 1, the arts come into our lives much more than we may realise, from the TV shows you watch to the logo of the company you work for, all the way down to the design on the hand sanitizer that you used last lockdown. Creativity is hugely significant to society and culture, and in order to discuss the value it has in education, I wanted to highlight first how it sort of comes up in education the same way that it does in society. I'm sure when you think back to your high school, your primary school years, you can remember in your maths lessons or English lessons when you're given projects to do and you've got to draw something or design something or come up with, invent something in order to retain that information, or from the kids' point of view to just mess around and have a fun and easy lesson. But when you actually look to analyse it, these methods are using creativity as active engagement to learn a subject. So it creeps up everywhere. And it's important that we not only recognise this as a way to teach in education, but also recognise the importance of teaching subjects specific to creativity like art, drama and music, to encourage kids to become more independent with their creative thinking and teach them that it doesn't have to just be used as a tool to learn another subject, but as a way to express themselves and as a stepping stone in their careers, although they obviously won't be thinking that at the time. And to learn new practical skills as well as applicable skills like teamwork, presentation skills and things like that. So to open it up to you guys, I wanted to ask first, do creative subjects belong in education at all? You know, it's an traditionally academic environment, and so you could argue that it's not the space to sort of have that creative thinking. It's not the right place for that. So, Jenna, what do you think? Do you think that they actually belong there?
I do think they belong there. I think you've picked up on a lot of the points, or some of them already. I think we've got a change and shift in culture anyway in education, because the students that we teach now, we don't know what the future is that they're going to face, and they have to creatively think out, problem solve everything that they might do, whether that's climate change, whether that's COVID, whether that's, you know, what they're going to face is different from 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So we do need that creativity in all the subjects and real life problem solving.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's lots of ideas that come into that. Excuse me.
Danielle, what about you? Because you don't teach in education, although you used to. But how do you sort of approach your lessons at Arts Hub?
So to jump onto what we were just saying about does it really belong in the academic arena, imagine a school without a display, imagine a school assembly without singing, imagine a primary school without any sort of physical sort of creativity. It just would be the most dull environment for any child to learn in. I definitely never learned from a book, sitting and reading. Everything was either sung, written, drawn, acted out whether it was drama or music lessons. Jenna could testify to that, having been in many classes with me at school. So I would just say, imagine a school or an environment or life without the arts. It just doesn't even bear thinking about. So that should be an argument enough, in my opinion.
That's so true. I mean, I was literally just saying yesterday that I learn things so much better by doing than listening, and I prefer to like get up and do something in order to learn what it is, and when it comes to everyday life sort of skills. So yeah, I definitely agree. What do you think, Vicky?
Mum? Well, we keep talking about school as an academic environment, and really school isn't an academic environment. It's an environment where we are teaching our young how to be adults and how to survive on their own in the adult world. And that sort of survival is not just, it is about having an income, being able to generate an income, look after yourself, but it's about a far bigger picture than just that. We've got to give them life skills to be able to enjoy life. But even when we come down, some facts and figures that I have prepped for today. So parents often ask when they come round to help their children make their choices, whether they're going to do art at GCSE or A-level, is there a job market out there for the creative arts? And people just tend to think, and I think maybe they think this about drama and music as well, like, are you going to be an artist? People don't make money out of being an artist. You're just going to be a musician. You're just going to be an actor or actress, and there's very few who will really make a good living out of that. But if you look, the creative industries in 2017 contributed 101.5 billion to the UK economy, greater than the automotive, aerospace, life sciences and oil and gas sectors all combined. I mean, we're teaching something that actually provides one of the biggest economies in the UK. In the UK, 1 in 11 jobs are in the creative arts industry, and 87% of those, and this is something Jenna raised before about the fact we don't know what the future is going to be. We don't know what jobs are going to be out there for our students because the world changes so fast. And one of the things that they're really facing is the increase of AI and the fact that there will be a lot of jobs that will become automated that we're currently doing now. And 87% of creative jobs are at low or no risk of automating. So shouldn't we guys be top of the hierarchical educational tree?
Well, you would think so, but I was actually just reading an article yesterday where they were saying that in the face of COVID, that creative subjects are the ones that are getting neglected when it comes to giving money to education from the government, and the UK are actually
so short-sighted,
leaving us behind.
And the most so short-sighted. With children being educated at home at the moment, we're lucky in the Isle of Man that it hasn't been to the extent of the UK and other places.
Yes, yeah.
But really, without artistic programmes, podcasts, radio shows, internet accessible resources, how many of them are designed and created by people working within the creative industries? And they're getting young people through a very difficult time at the moment and helping them access not only creative subjects but subjects that are vital, important subjects like maths, English and science. CBBS. I've got a 21-month-old at home who thankfully is not homeschooled, but I get to see all the programmes that are coming up and down, every day as part of the homeschooling provision. And there's so much they gain from those sort of programmes that are, wouldn't be there without the creative industries. Animators, producers,
and they're
musicians.
so interlinked.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Like, it's not just creative in one area. You are so interlinked. You have to think creatively in all of those jobs, and those come fundamentally back to what you did at school and how you were able to access education.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually links onto the next point that I wanted to raise about the sort of skills that creative subjects can teach you that aren't just specific to, say, if you're taking a music class, it's not just about learning how to play an instrument. But you learn a lot of life skills as well from creative subjects. I mean, like, for example, when I was thinking of this question, what word comes to mind in terms of this? And for me, it's patience. When I was studying art, you start a project, and as soon as I'm given a brief, I'm thinking, okay, so 5 weeks down the line, this is what I'll be doing for my final piece. And it really taught me to stop and sort of take my time with the work and really to see what happens, in the same way not to give up too quickly and sort of take my time with something and let it unfold and see what comes of it. But Danielle, as you were just saying before, what word comes to you when you think?
I was thinking about this and there were so many words. But I think the big word, versatility, because it's being versatile in any given situation, and there are so many words that link with that. I'm sure you'll probably jump on with them as well. That being able to throw yourself into any situation, how do you handle that? How do you problem solve? How do you deal with that specific issue with a person? And in the world of work, they're the sort of things that we're faced with day in, day out, aren't they? So versatility, I think, is a big, big skill that you come out with.
Absolutely.
And I think I sometimes say to parents teaching drama and music, because I've taught both, when you do have that group work part of it, there's not many subjects actually that have group work or where you're assessed as a group, but actually in a lot of life jobs out there, you are assessed as a group and as a team, and it's kind of like being on The Apprentice sometimes. I don't know if Danny would agree, because you actually see, well, the natural leader will come out, the one who's a bit lazy might come out, the one who has got all these ideas but doesn't know how to start, the one who's almost weaving all those things together. And I think that's something that's not documented enough about when you do group work in a music and drama setting, for example. Actually, you will see what they're kind of like possibly in a job situation, who are the natural leaders, who sometimes you have to take away from each other because they're going to fall out with their best friend, because two natural leaders in one group makes it implode. It's a very different skill. When I taught GCSE drama and performing arts at A-level, actually you have to be very careful with groupings and how they interact with each other, and it's not talked about enough that it's never a singular grade. Sometimes it's on a group as well, which
and that is something that I have noticed in your subject, because I know a lot of us in all the other subjects, we try to do teamwork. It's something we're supposed to be doing, but we're generating an environment specifically for teamwork. But you guys, when they do their GCSEs, they're not singular people. They've got to make it work in order for the whole team to get it. And
depending on each other.
I've found that. Yes, I've when I've come across it, because I've had some students in my tutor group, and I've been like, wow, I had no idea you all really had to pull together, not just because I've created a teamwork lesson. But this has real life consequences, not just school consequences.
And it's for the kids as well. I know you say for the teachers to figure out where they, how to group the kids together, but also, although they may not realise it at the time, it's the kids and figuring out where they belong in a teamwork setting. So you'll probably figure out in school, if you're doing team projects, that you're like, okay, I am the natural leader of this. So then you take that into work, and you know that when you go into a group setting and work, you sort of assume the role for yourself of maybe you're the background person that brings the research, or you're the person that helps with the making and stuff like that. So it's definitely for the kids as well.
Adapting and be able to adapt to any given situation. And again, I hate to go back to COVID times and what we're dealing with at the moment, but I mean, I'm sure a lot of your friends and colleagues and people I know in the UK that work within the creative arts industries, whether they're backstage, front of house, technical, props makers, performers, actors, everyone over there is having to adapt to this situation, and most of them are finding ways to work and make a living, still using all the skills that they've gained and developed over the last however many years. And if that's not proof enough as to why creative subjects are so vital.
And especially in these times, you would turn to someone and they would go, I don't know how to do this, and I don't know how to work from home. And the response that you probably get is, well, get creative.
Yes, get creative.
You become a yes person, don't you?
Exactly.
Don't be finding the negative. What's the yes? How can we make the positive out of this? And I'm 100% believe that what we teach is what they can.
Absolutely, and even on a practical level, like the Royal Opera House, I think, are doing something with a medical profession all about breathing.
Yeah, the singing project they were doing for the COVID.
Yeah, there was a BBC kind of mini clip, I guess, on social media that sort of stated so many people don't know how to breathe from those kind of muscles because they didn't learn that in school, or they don't understand intercostal breathing, and it's like that's just ingrained into singing and music and how you do that properly. And I was like, yes, we should be teaching children how to sing in primary schools.
Well, that's like the use of arts in the most recent area of how they've been working with dementia patients, and they are now seeing practical results, but they're also doing trials and things. And it's not just that dementia patients enjoy or get a sense of self-esteem back from doing creative art or music or whatever, but they're actually seeing their brains becoming more elastic. They are seeing where it improves their thinking ability, and neuropsychiatric symptoms have been improved in some of the studies. I mean, I know they've got to look far more at it to confirm it, but when you actually see having an effect like that on a damaged brain, you think, oh my God, why aren't we going, this must be so good for a healthy brain.
And I've got a personal story that attests to that, just if you want it. But my granddad was at that stage of life where he was losing memory, couldn't remember a name, walked into the hospital, sort of recognised, you can see in his eyes, he recognised me, couldn't speak a word in a sentence. My cousin and I had been, in church his whole life, sang hymns his whole life. We went in, we asked permission, we sang 2 hymns, played and sang 2 hymns, and the whole ward, there were 5 of them on the ward, all started singing in harmony, knew all the words to the songs. And literally my granddad said to me, hi Jenna, literally he got finished singing 2 songs and he could remember who I was.
Wow.
And suddenly had compos mentis moment because he'd done like some singing, and the nurses came in and cried. They were like, this is why music is so important in hospitals. And we were like, oh my gosh, we weren't expecting any of that reaction. We just wanted to try and give granddad an experience that he wasn't getting alone in hospital.
And it's an individual thing, but that also reflects like what happened in Italy last year in the first lockdown, when they all came out into the streets and sang. And there was a real sense of community from that. So it can really do so many different things. And interestingly, which leads on to my next point, is that when it comes in education, when it comes to students starting to make more decisions, like when they're choosing their GCSEs, maths, English, science are compulsory subjects, but it is not compulsory at all to take any creative subject. And then when it comes to A-level, although I don't think it's been said officially, but the number of students taking these creative subjects noticeably drops, and you often end up with sort of smaller classes than that of the ones taking science and stuff. So what is your opinion on this? Do you think it's linked to the fact that you're not being told to pick a creative subject? In inverted commas, you don't have to pick a specific one, but do you think it's linked?
I think it's a general perception, even though I have to say, I think in our school we're really well supported. But I think there is a general opinion that art is, maybe, I don't know about music, I can't speak for music, but that art is a lesser subject. And that if you're hugely arty, if you're seen as hugely arty, then that makes it okay. But for a lot of students who haven't come up through Key Stage 3 being hugely arty, their parents don't see it as an academic enough subject. And it's using the brain. How can it not be academic? Like, it's using the brain. So there we go. But I just think that one of the things I feel that's happened in art is the push at A-level for university, just limiting the choices to what will get them into university. And I think we've seen a lot of students who maybe hadn't thought of art as a career, but who really enjoyed the subject, benefited from the subject, but they have come to us and said, I've got to make sure I've got maths or English or history, geography, and art has become sidelined.
I think that's been, from my perspective, yes, we are supported, and I totally agree with that. But we
was Miss Moore on to you before you came on to this episode?
We have not been fully prepped, no. But essentially, like, students are almost shoe-holed into situations, and I say to them, pick something you enjoy and something that's going to spark your brain and something that you're going to be interested in, because I was really lucky that was my upbringing. Like, I did not get pigeonholed into something. I did not get told you're doing STEM subjects or you're doing this. Like, I was very much given the ability to choose, and we were very lucky at school, weren't we, Danielle, that we had an arts column, and actually for us they made music.
We were able to take music and drama at GCSE, which we had to fight for.
What school did you guys go
to?
But for our year group, they made that a choice for us so that we could take both, because there were about 5 or 6 of us, I think, that wanted to do both. And so instead of being option blocks that are just set in stone, actually we need that flexibility, because every year the group changes, and there might be students that want to do art and maths and chemistry, and they might get told not to do art, for example, because that doesn't fit. But actually for that child it might help them see something in maths, and I say there's like
maths and art go so well together.
I took art and maths, didn't I? At A-level I took art, maths and psychology, and I thought the
They're natural
trio was
bedfellows. They're absolutely natural bedfellows. One feeds off the other, and you know.
I think that's something that perhaps parents don't always understand. Perhaps it's not in the literature that we put out as educators.
I think that's the biggest thing is the parental engagement, and it's hard, isn't it? Because we're living in such a fast-paced world, and the amount of time we get to spend with parents, showing them what we do. I have the benefit now of, and lockdown's been great for this, showing our parents what we do at the Arts Hub, which I wouldn't have had in a school environment because you just can't do that in your 9 to 3:30 day at school. During lockdown, I was running all my classes online, and quite often a lot of the parents were joining in, especially with the younger children. I teach everything from 3 right up to 16, so to get them onto Zoom and to get them engaged with the online classes, they had to be there. And the mums and dads are joining in and have such a great understanding of what the skills are and what the children are gaining. And unfortunately, through no fault of anyone's, you know, they can't access that. It's immediate, wow, that's what they're getting from this. Right, I understand now why that would be beneficial for them. And maybe it's having the opportunity to get parents in the door and seeing a real life experience of what it is children get from those lessons.
We have obviously evenings where we do like the GCSE and A-level option evenings. And I know the last few years I've said to parents, no, well, music goes really well with accountancy because you're spotting patterns constantly. You are looking at patterns in music, but that can be linked to looking at patterns in numbers. Like, there are so many jobs that can come from things that you have to think more broadly about. And we are trying as an island, actually, education-wise,
I think we
to
are,
do more life skills, to not just look at the 6 hours, for example, that primary schools are doing. We're now doing much more life skills, and we're trying to embed that into children's thinking. But to do that thinking, they have to think outside of the box, which they're not always in the right you know, place to do that yet. They haven't seen outside of school. They haven't always seen, you know, from COVID, they haven't seen the workplace, which we've noticed this year has made a difference. You know, so actually them seeing those skills in action hasn't always happened, so it is tricky.
But it's also, you know, you do see in your class, and this is something that I think parents don't necessarily see, even if they can witness what we're teaching more through the online provisions at home. But it's that moment, you know, when the student who's never engaged in your lesson, who's messed around, talked, has kicked the pencil around the floor for the last half hour and washed his hands 27 times, nothing to do with COVID.
Are you going to name drop at this point?
No, definitely not going to name drop at this point. But you see that child suddenly create something and you look and they look and you both go, wow. I didn't know you could do that. And here they're going, wow, I didn't know. And then you can see the sense of pride they have and or the quiet one right at the back who has just really busied away. Those ones you so in danger of missing because they never create any fuss, but they're not your big hitters in your subject. But then they suddenly do something. You can see from their shy smile that they're just looking at it thinking, yeah, I did good.
And on to that.
And that's so important for their self-esteem. I really feel that's, you know, I'm all for, I really do feel quite passionate that we are a workforce to be valued, and that's how we should be viewed in school, that we are as academic as every other subject because we can push you out into the workforce really well. But that self-esteem thing is so important in a world that is very, very big.
And linking to that, I don't know if Danny has the same experience in Arts Hub, but intrinsic motivation, like, personally, I don't think I would have survived secondary school without the intrinsic motivation of wanting to succeed in music. And I think that can be lost. If you have a child who feels like they're not good at the maths and science areas, but they're good at this one subject, they will do better in everything because they had intrinsic motivation to succeed.
Definitely.
And sometimes our subjects, as the one point in their week where they actually create something unique for themselves that they just don't get in other subjects.
And this is the thing, and yet still there is a stigma around the creative subjects that they are perceived as the easy option. Yeah, definitely.
I think it will always be that way, though. I do think that, unfortunately, I mean, as a student at Ballacomine, you know, and going off to university and college and what have you, it's always been in peaks and troughs, and sometimes there's lots of value to be taken from it, and then suddenly it's the easy option again. And I don't think we'll ever win the battle 100%. I think we'll always be fighting for our subjects, but then bring it on because we can and we will, passionately and creatively.
Well, this is the thing, and this is kind of been the attitude of how we've talked about the importance of it throughout this episode so far, is that that it's very much like once the kids do it, like you were just saying, like once the kids do it and their self-esteem is boosted and their parents are going, wow, that's actually really amazing. And it's the aftermath and they go, oh, actually, this is something really good. So what would you say if a parent was coming to you and it was a GCSE options evening and a parent came to you and they thought, I'm going to tell them to take this because I think it might give them a break from their maths and science subjects. What would you say to them, Jenna? All right, so just to brief the listeners, we had a minor glitch, but we are back.
I think we're creative people.
Yeah.
Can adapt.
Yeah, exactly. We can work to this. I should say this is the first time I'm actually in the studio doing the podcast. So last time, if you listen to episode 2, we made it as far as being in person. This time we've actually made it to the studio. So, and now we're going to go straight back into lockdown. So, but maybe. Yeah, minor glitch, but it's fine. So I was just saying, Jenny, you were about to tell us about if a parent comes to you and says, I'm going to get them to take music because it's the easy option. How would you respond to them?
Yeah, so if they said easy option, I think I would try and show them the breadth of kind of things that we do in a music GCSE or A level. I do think it has merit. For example, we do teach in small classes. So obviously that's more one-to-one attention, but I would sort of draw their attention to things like how much composition time it takes, how much performance we're expecting to do outside of the classroom in terms of their own lessons, turning up to those, but also doing their own rehearsal time. So it's bigger than we expect. And then things like taking the subject further, all the kind of life skills that would involve and job prospects that can come from. So we mentioned before,
yes,
hopefully, the idea of, I know I've said to parents, but actually problem solving, or if you can look at an orchestral score and spot a pattern, then you can look at numbers and figures and things like accountancy. I don't think I mentioned it before, but I've got a lot of friends who are surgeons, and the dexterity that comes from playing an instrument. I used to play in a really high professional kind of wind orchestra where a lot of the people I played with were surgeons and doctors, and they all, that was, yes, their hobby, but they also took it almost to an advanced professional level alongside doing those, what STEM subjects would require.
And do you know, it's funny because I use the same thing. Like I did maths and art at school, and I feel like I bring my maths side of things into my art a lot, in that I love things that have like a system and like a method. Yeah. And I was told when I used to say like to my mum and my dad, like, I don't know what I want to do, and they go, what are you interested in? I'd say maths and art, and they'd go, architecture. That's, you know,
natural bedfellow.
Yeah, exactly. And I haven't, but it is like, it marries up so well with other subjects that you'd never think it would join on to.
And the idea of pick something you enjoy. So I know I've had students in the past where I've said to parents, if they enjoy it and they have a natural passion for it and they want to study it, why would you not want your child to study that subject? You know, you want your brain to be interested. You know, we've definitely seen, and I'm sure, Danny, when you were at your schools, like, if a child is disinterested, they will not put the work in. There will be no intrinsic motivation to succeed.
Yeah, you have to want to learn.
If you're interested in something, I did psychology of music as part of my degree, and I would happily, if I ever could afford it, to go back and do more in psychology of music, because it made my brain interested. I was interested about all of that. Why would you not want your child to do something they are interested in and passionate about and learn? You know, learning isn't always doing something that's easy. Learning should be challenging your brain and doing something that you're interested in.
And fun.
Yeah.
It should be fun.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's why they bring stuff like creativity into your maths classes and your geography classes, and they give you projects of get creative in order to learn the subject, and it's sort of all applied. But for you guys and for some of your class as well, Danielle, you have to take these kids in for an hour and you have to inspire them. You have to get them to make something, like you said, you have to make them want to learn. And that's a really tricky thing to do in a space of an hour, under an hour in your case. So how do you approach this? How is it different than just being like, no, but don't you just love the subject? Like, do you have to approach it differently when you know you've got that short amount of time?
Well, I think, obviously, as teachers, we all have a bag of tricks for and routines for calming kids down, coming into your classroom, getting ready to listen and to focus.
Vicky's great at teacher stare, just going to point that out.
Oh, it's not just a teacher stare. It's a mum stare.
So we all have those things. in our sort of in our armour for teaching. But I think when it comes to the creative arts in particular, if you are absolutely passionate, your enthusiasm and your joy in what you're doing helps. And I think the physicality of our subject is absolutely a great way, because just getting stuff out and going and getting it from different parts of the classroom, it gets them moving in a way you want them moving. And I assume it's the same with drama and music as well. You're actually getting the kids to move when they want to move. I mean, they're wanting to jump up and down and chat to one another, but you're saying, get the pot from over there, get the paint from over there, get your paper out, do this. And you're sort of gradually, it's like herding sheep. You're making them think they're doing what they want to do, but actually you're making them do what you want them to do. And eventually you've narrowed the triangle right down to that point on the table.
You take tips and tricks very literally then.
I do take tips and tricks very literally.
And you were saying for Jenna that it's your personality that you think gets the kids on board.
The two things I picked up in all of the youth work I've done and teaching that I've done is music-wise, being a musician in the classroom. So it was a joke on PGCE that I had my flute everywhere I went, because I'm mainly a flautist. But actually, I would do things on my flute. Like, I'm not a natural piano player, however much I would love that. But actually, like, I could get my flute out and I could show them something, and the awe and wonder moment that you will have with kids, you might in yourself think you've done horrifically at you showing them that thing, but they're like, oh wow. And I'm like, that's what it's about. It's the awe and wonder moment. And being a musician in the classroom for me has always helped, whether it's singing or my attempt at piano playing or whether it's playing my flute, but then equally giving them real life things. So my drama teaching, I don't do as much now. But when I was doing Key Stage 3, I just try and get them to do real life things. So when do a project on Matilda, but actually look at it, what, are those parents being good parents? Okay, so like life teaching kind of moments. And I don't know if that comes in from my youth work background, that you teach something, but have a real life thing, like film music in year 9, like hook them in with something they understand and then take them to the classical place. Yeah. Because you can't hook a load of children in with classical necessarily. It's not part of their culture, it's not part of their remit, it's not something they've grown up with. But if you can hook them in, they'll sit there and watch the kind of LSO play a Batman theme because they understand it. Yeah. But if you don't hook them in with something they relate to, you won't hook them in. Unless you've got that one child that might love you, but that's it.
Another thing that I think is really good, because I was just listening to Jenna talk about playing your flute in front of them, and obviously I do demonstrations with art all the time where I'm showing them what I want them to do, and I think that, apart from the fact that that's a teaching skill, so you're actually showing them what you want them to do, from a personal point of view, I always let my groups know that I'm really making myself quite vulnerable doing something that they could laugh at, because I'm doing it. I mean, just because I've done it for so long doesn't mean my drawing today is going to be a good drawing. It could be an absolutely rubbish. I could draw the figure beautifully everywhere else, but in that 3-minute section.
Absolutely.
And all the time I'm doing it, of course, every ounce of your eyes, your brain, your ears are listening to what they're all doing all around you, because you're just like, stop poking them, listen, put that down, I'm still drawing.
I think that children love it when you put yourself in that vulnerable position. And I'm just going to say all of the things that you totally agree with, but I'm a big believer in making a fool out of yourself in front of children creatively.
Yes.
And one of my biggest things, and it was a brilliant one, especially when I taught in a school in London with some really challenging children that were quite intimidating at times, I make them sing the register. And to do that, I'd sing it at them, and then it'd be, well, tough if I'm doing it. Yeah. You're going to do it, and I'll keep playing the piano, and I'll keep singing, oh, Shane, and you hear it, and you keep going with that, and he'd respond eventually just to shut me up. Yeah. And then suddenly, okay, she's going to sing at me if I don't engage with this. So
isn't that such a fabulous thing to show them? But then they trust you then.
They do trust you. So you make mistakes in front of them as well.
Yeah. So it is all about trust. That's a huge thing.
Massively.
But also, what a life skill to say, look, just make it. It's not that scary to make yourself feel vulnerable, because you can move on from that.
And teaches them that it's also, like you said about making mistakes, it teaches them that it's also all right to make mistakes.
Yes,
like,
and
I don't think you can't learn. You can't
learn without.
I love teaching pop music, and every year I get all of them to go off and find me one that isn't too sex, drugs, rock and roll, sweary, but go find one, and I teach them how to do chords through that. but I make myself vulnerable and I say, right, I'm going to pick one of the songs that you've chosen today and next week I'll play and sing it to you. And not the best pianist in the world at all, but I do it, and every year it builds a level of trust with each group where they're like, well, if Miss can do it, then and I'll have a go. And once you've got them having a go, then you can develop everything. But if they refuse point blank in the middle of their worst teenage hormone moments to do anything for you or to do anything in front of their peers, I think that's the other thing that sometimes in other subjects they don't struggle against as much, is that if they're going to perform in front of their peers, how much trust we have to build within the room.
But then do you find as well that in the subjects that we teach, we can facilitate. I'm a big believer in anyone can achieve at all through our subjects. So they might not want to sing, they might not want to play an instrument, but they might be great at conducting or providing a backing vocal or a bit of body percussion or
prop making.
There's always
or
a role they can always achieve.
Well, it's like the teamwork thing that we were saying before, like everyone sort of finds their place.
And the minute you hook them in with that one thing, then the next time they might have a go at doing something else. So
And so on that note, to sort of round off the episode, what advice would you give? Because it is coming up to the Easter holidays when this episode comes out, and for parents looking to keep their kids making things or getting creative in whatever way works, what advice would you give to them over the holidays for how they can do this?
Can I jump in straight away and say engage with everything on the Isle of Man? Because I mean, we provide loads, but my goodness me, the wealth of opportunities,
so much out
free
there,
and not free, you know. And even if it's not being an instructor-led provision, there's so much that they can get involved with creatively. And I would just say take every opportunity that they can get, both physically but also online. I don't know about you guys.
I was going to say because it might be locked down again. Is there stuff?
Well, look, if they go online and learn how to do a particular makeup or hair that they can spend hours, Olivia, learning how to do.
Yes.
Or, you know, they go out to find a gaming solution because they're stuck on a particular level in a game, then just broaden your search. Look for art stuff that's out there as well. Because the internet, as we all know, the minute it knows you're looking at something, it gives you more of that. And there's just so much online tutorials, and you think, oh, give that a go. Let's drag some string in paint, turn it into a rhinoceros. It's just there.
I think sometimes it's also letting the children have downtime. So I think I was most creative when I was at home, and if we are in a lockdown situation, by not necessarily bombarding children with everything all at once, but going, well, we could do this or we could do this, and having downtime. You know, if it was art, you know, going, well, should we do this and have a go and be involved in that process as well. You know, you can get really excited about going out to a whole day of Arts Hub, which is brilliant and absolutely do. Yes. But also, if you're at home and you've got raw materials, whether that's make an instrument if you're a primary school kind of age student, or learn a keyboard tutorial off YouTube in a music capacity. But having that downtime is really, really important to be creative as well.
Well, I think we see it as downtime, don't we, Mum? Because we share a studio at home. Well, I use your studio. But we always say that it's so nice to feel like you can escape into the studio and put music on, or we watch our own Netflix shows or whatever, and we sort of get on with it, and you can sort of remove yourself from the world for a minute with your creative.
You can absolutely get lost in the creative activity where you end up thinking only about that, don't you? So all the other things that are troubling you or stressing you, switch off and...
like make it like doodling. Doesn't matter if you get it wrong.
Absolutely.
Like music can be like that. If you're improvising on your instrument or picking a new piece of music, okay, I can't do this right now, but that's okay. You know, doodle away, doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Don't stress that what you are doing has to be perfect, that it has to be of a certain quality. Just enjoy it, because you can't judge yourself the intrinsic value of the things you do. But as teachers, we can see that. But you yourself, just enjoy it. Just have fun.
It's the thing for the parents as well. Like you were saying, it helps for you guys as the teachers to put yourself in the position of doing a demonstration. So maybe for parents, if you're in lockdown or if you're in just Easter holidays,
just do it together.
Yeah, just get involved with them. Maybe would you say that?
Yeah, to teach you. Children love teaching their parents so many things. So many like some of our kids going, we're doing High School Musical at the Arts at the moment. Most of their parents know the Wildcat dance routine inside out because their kids have gone home and taught them the dance routine.
Oh, how perfect.
And they love it. And then that way you get to see the benefit
I want
and
to
experience.
There we go. And be brave. Like, I think some of the parents I know are incredibly creative, but why don't you do a treasure hunt? Why don't you go around and find things in your local area if you're walking around the day before, and then go, oh, should we do this now? Or go on a bear hunt if you've got a primary school age child. Like, there's so much we can do on the island. Have a beach fire and learn a song round the fire. Like, I wish I'd known we could have done that as kids. I didn't even know that since moving to the west kind of area and realising all the farm kids have parties in the barns and everything else. You know, I was a townie.
I'm glad we've got you, Jenny, to tell them all now.
I was like, there's loads of ideas. Fire on Niolble Beach and all sorts of things you can do.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think we can wrap things up there for today. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
I've really enjoyed it.
Been a pleasure. Yeah, Mum's going to ask to come on all the future episodes now. Co-host opportunity. Yeah, I really hope we've inspired some parents out there to get their kids creative. And also, if you're a parent who's not just got young children, but maybe young teens who are looking at what to do, they're approaching GCSEs and don't know what to do, that creative subjects can be a great outlet for them if they don't want to take it in school. There is Arts Hub, and they can do things out of school. You know, there's so many different ways that they can get involved.
Just like to say, if the 14 to 19 evening doesn't go ahead at QE2, you can listen to this and choose the creative arts. Completely.
Before Mum came on this episode, she was like, I'm so nervous, I'm not going to know what to say.
No.
Yeah.
I've responded to the challenge.
Yeah, you absolutely have. You've risen to it.
Creative fire now.
There we go. That's the thing, once you get her talking. But yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
A few words from us over at the Arts Council before I head off. Our COVID resilience funding is back for another round this lockdown. This funding will be made available on merit to anyone working or taking part in the creative industries, culture and arts communities on the Isle of Man, to ensure these organisations and individuals are assisted during this difficult time. Don't forget, as always, if you're a creative individual and or organisation and want to get the word out about what you're up to, you can sign up to the Artist Directory on the Arts Council website. That's iomarts.com. And get yourself mentioned in our newsletter by contacting us via social media. Just search Isle of Man Arts Council on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, or email us at iomartscouncil@gov.im. Once again, a big thank you to Vici, Jenna and Danielle for joining me, and of course to all our listeners out there. See you next episode.